Hello, FlossTube. This is Deb or Deborah, Science Knitster. Happy New Year. Uh, this is my channel about my craftiness, mainly cross stitch, but tonight I also have a little knitting. Um, and so I want first welcome or welcome back to those of you that are watching this. Um, as usual, I have something to drink with me. This is my favorite cup, Christmas cup, which I believe was a gift many years ago. Tonight I am drinking hot chocolate because it's a little cool. I'm not cold, but a little cool here in South Texas. So I'm drinking carnation cocoa and actually mixed two different cocoa packets. This was part of the Nordic Countdown Stitch Along through Evertote, Modern Folk Embroidery, and Roxy Flasco. It was one of the days we got some cocoa in our little bag of goodies. Excuse me. So you'll have to excuse me slurping. So I'm going to get right to it. I'm going to start off with some finishes, and actually two of them were started and finished this month. So it's been about a month since my last recording. It is New Year's Eve here in South Texas. And so the first thing I have to show you is my version of Peppermint Parrot by the Blue Flower. This was in the Jingle Ball Baubles book that came out this year during the Jingle Ball. So it is not available at this time. If you didn't go to the Jingle Ball and pick it up, you'll have to go to the Jingle Ball next year and see if they have any copies left. So I used the called for DMC, but I changed the called for fabric to a Zweigart Mint Splash Lugana. And then I didn't have any Petite Treasure braid, which is what this little perch ring was done with in the original. It is right here. And so I have quite a bit of Kreinik, different sizes of Kreinik braid. So I substituted some number 8 Kreinik braid that seemed to work on 32 count. I'm going to finish this as a padded mat board, or some people, a flat ornament, like most of my ornaments are. That's my plan anyway. Okay, so that's one. Another finish that I had, actually just that one was within the last few days, and so is this one. This is the Christmas Sampler by Heart in Hand. So this was actually, it's quite an old kit. Let's see if I can see a year on here. I don't see, I probably have to open it up to see the copyright. But it's been in my stash for a while. This fabric is 32 count summer khaki that came in the kit. So the kit was the chart, the button, and the fabric. You had to supply your own threads, and the called for threads were a mix of Weeks Dye Works and Gentle Arts over dye, but there was also DMC excuse me, DMC equivalents. I used the called for, except this blue right here. I didn't have the blue that was called for, so I substituted a Roxy Flasco from the Countdown, actually. That seemed to be about the right shade. So I'm pretty happy with this. I haven't decided for sure how I'm going to finish this. It is of a size that I could finish it as a regular ornament, although it'd be a little bit on the large size for the tree that I put my stitched ornaments on. So I'm also thinking I might do it as a pillow instead. Okay, so that was Heart in Hand. And both of those were stitched with 2 strands of thread over 2 linen or Lugana threads. And then my last finish is Yule Dance, which is the piece from the Nordic Holiday Countdown from Evertote, Modern Folk Embroidery, and Roxy Floss Co. So I did get the full kit, and there was room here to put your initials. I had to kind of scrunch mine in because I actually go by my middle name, and so I like to use all 3 initials on my stitching. And I decided I kind of looked on Instagram to see what color people were using for this one, for their initials, if they put their initials in. And I decided to go with the same floss color as the year. So I just finished this one today. I was a little bit behind. The beginning of December is pretty busy for me. So between the Jingle Ball, which I attended, and the fact that it was the end of our semester, I teach at a local community college. I'm a biologist by training. Things were a little hectic, and so I got quite a bit far behind. I was able to catch up um, with about a week's worth of stitching left. And so I was like, but I can finish this like right before Christmas. I realized, well, there's no way I'm going to finish it by Christmas, the 25th. But if I get to a certain day by the day before Christmas, I can just do, the amount that was supposed to be stitched each day and finish by New Year's Eve. And so that became my goal. And if I do that again, that is probably what I'm going to do. But I'm very pleased with how that turned out. I haven't decided how I'm going to finish this yet. I may do like a wall hanging because I also quilt, or I may frame it. Haven't decided. Okay, so those are all my finishes. I did have a couple other new starts, maybe 1 or 2 new starts. So as I said, there were 2 new starts in the ones I just showed you. The Peppermint Parrot and the Yule Dance were new starts in December. And I forgot to mention, the fabric that I used here is the fabric that came in the countdown box. It's called Glacier, and I chose 36 count. And on 36 count, I generally stitch 1 thread of floss over 2 linen threads, and so that's what I did for this. And I used all the called for colors that were in the Roxy Floss, that came from Roxy Floss Co. So here's the front of the main little booklet that came in each day. You've probably seen already. Others have shown on social media. Each day we got, excuse me, a card with some info and that day's stitching. Okay, so I did have, ended up over there. I did have, oh yeah, 2 other starts. So let me go to starts next. So my next start, let me actually just pull the cover page off of here, is from, excuse me, is from Quaint Rose Needlearts, from her Gingerbread Village. I bought this summer at a shop up in Central Texas, and I started this Gingerbread in Cup is what this piece here is called. And I am stitching it on 36 count linen, and the linen I'm using is not the called for linen, but is this very beautiful, and it's probably not going to show the right color. It's a blue green, and it's showing a lot lighter than it is in real life. These are kind of washed out. I haven't recorded down here at night in a long time, and it's the first time I'm doing it with my laptop. So let me see. No, it's not. It's just kind of washed out, but it's a really pretty blue-green, more on the, well, depending on what you have it up against, it looks more blue or more green. But it's called Morning Fog, and it's by Be Stitch Me. Let me see if I hold it up really close. No, it's not any better, but it's coming across very washed out. And I may decide that evening recording down here in the dining room is just not going to work. So it's 30, as I said, 36 count. I got to find where the stitching is because I didn't get very far. So this is the stitching that I've done so far. So actually, let me double that up so that I don't see through it. So I'm using the called for over dies, which are mainly, I think they're mainly, well, they're a mix of the Gentle Art and Classic Colorworks. So I may work on this some more tonight. I've got it in my bag from Corey Creates. And I do have enough fabric. I do intend to stitch all the pieces here. So in real life, the fabric looks a lot like the color that you see in the picture, which is why I chose it. Okay. I'm gonna put this over here. Okay, let's see. One more new start. So this is actually part of a stitch along that Helen D and somebody else, I don't remember who, sorry, started on the Saturday before Christmas. So I started along after I finished my stitching on the countdown. And then I think I worked on it one other night. And this, let's see if I printed out a picture. I think I did. This is a chart I got as a PDF from Pigeon Coop, from Max Pigeon at Pigeon Coop. And it's called Partridge and Pear. Really cute. I love Max's birds. And I am stitching it, not on the called for Ada, but 40 count Roxy Flosco linen called Dirty Porcelain. And excuse my thread there. I'm using the called for DMC, but actually that should be this way. And again, the fabric is looking very washed out in what I can see on my computer screen. It is a little bit darker in real life. Looks kind of tea-dyed, sort of a tea-dyed color, sort of a light tan, very pretty. I do like the fabric a lot. When I counted stitches, so this is supposed to be 40 count, it seems more like 46, which I'm actually okay with, because I wanted to stitch this on 40 count or something a little bit higher count, so smaller, so that it would be small enough to finish as a round ornament. What I may do is see if I can get some of the round mat board that Kathy at Hands On Design has on her website. I think it would just be just the right size for the size that this is going to turn out to be. And as I said, I'm using the called for DMC. I think I managed to find all the colors but one, so I am going to have to make a trip to the store. So my goal for this, and maybe the other one, we'll see, is to definitely finish these by the end of January, but maybe even finish them by the end of the religious Christmas season. So I have a little more time. Okay. I told a lie. I have one other new start. I don't remember exactly which day I started this one. And I've worked on it. I believe I started it over a weekend because I made some good progress on it. But this is a Cardinal's Carol by Luminous Fiber Arts. So I have this as a PDF. I collected all of these. Misty Purcell, who's the designer behind Luminous Fiber Arts, she had a whole series of birds for different holidays. And this is the last one that I need to stitch. And I think this is most, is this the right one? That is not the right one. We got a couple of different projects in this bag, Christmas related projects in this bag. I believe these are the threads. So it's a mix of overdyes and DMC that is called for, and I am using the called for, except for this red. I forget what the called for was. I didn't have it, so I'm using Turkish red instead, I believe. Maybe it was the Turkish red. Maybe it was. Oh, no. It's one of the other reds. I'm using garnet instead of the called for. No, maybe it's that one. Yeah, it is that one. This is 40 count soft porcelain from Luminous Fiber Arts from when Misty used to dye. I do have a little bit more of this left, I believe. I've been kind of hoarding my Luminous Fiber Art linen because she's not dyeing anymore. So this one, I was actually hoping to finish today, but it took me longer than I anticipated to finish the countdown, the Yule dance by Modern Folk Embroidery. So I haven't worked on this yet today, but I do plan to work on it some more and finish it this month. So hopefully I will finish all of those Christmas ones this month. Okay, let's make sure I didn't tell another lie. Look over here, yeah. Okay, so I have a couple of whips left to talk about. So this is actually quite an old whip. This is an old Bent Creek little kit. Oops. So this one came with the threads and everything, the fabric, the thread, or maybe it was the thread and I had to supply the fabric. Nope, it came with everything. So this fabric is 25 count linen. It doesn't say what color it is. Okay, so this is just a little one of their little zippers. And I think it's this way. So I started this one quite a while ago and it got put away. And I got it back out. I doubt I'll finish this one this Christmas season, but I will work on it again another time. But I do plan to work on this one some more. So it's called Cheer. I don't know if these are still available or not. And I'm not sure about the Heart and Hand Christmas sampler, if that one's still available. Okay. That one over there without getting confused. Okay, 2 more whips. Some more cocoa. So both of these, so let me do this one first because this one I started 2 years ago, I believe on Christmas. It is, this is My Joy by Little House Needleworks. And so it's showing you different options there for different ways you could do it. So she was recommending you do it monochromatically. And yeah, and she recommended like different fabrics and so forth. So I'm stitching it on 36 count Opulence by Luminous Fiber Arts. Okay, another one that I do have a bit more of this, I believe. Maybe not. Yeah, I used it for something else. So this is what this piece is what I have left. But this piece is not going to take the whole piece. This is as far as I've gotten. This is another one that I think I could finish. But obviously this is a nativity. And those of you that have been longtime viewers know that I collect different types of nativities. You know, I have wooden ones and stitched ones and so forth. And I have several that I haven't stitched. And this is one I started 2 years ago. I'm stitching it over 2 on this 36 count linen using Belle Soie color greens. So a nice dark green, as you can see here. And again, the fabric's getting washed out. It's a beautiful golden brown color, very warm. And you know, obviously over dyed, it's a little bit blotchy, but not, you know, overpoweringly so. It looks aged, I guess is a good way to say it. But again, a beautiful fabric, but no longer available. Okay. I may work on this tonight. I'm either going to work on the Cardinal or this tonight. Or I might work on this next one. One that isn't going to require a ton of counting is probably the best for tonight. This is another Little House Needleworks. This was an old kit. So when I bought this, it was available as a kit. I think I bought this back in 2007 or 2008. It came out in 2007 anyway. So it's called Winter Sampler. And I love gingerbread. They're my favorite. So I started this one last year, just before Christmas. So when I bought this, it came with the chart and the Belle Soie. And so the Belle Soie just kind of came as, well, it was neater than this, but it's kind of a big wad now. So all the floss that you need is there. I'm using 2 strands of the Belle Soie because I'm stitching it on some 32 count. I believe this is the called for. Yeah, 32 count light mocha, I think is what I kitted this up with. I think I had some light mocha with this, with the intention of using it. And so probably now, if I hadn't already bought this to do this, I probably would have done it on 36 count and just used 1 strand. But this is coming out very nice. I'm not having much trouble laying the threads, even though I stitch in hand now. So, but actually, I hadn't made much progress. Like when I picked this back up this month, I had a little bit of the gingerbread done, I think, like down, just starting on the body, and not much else. So I've put most of this in. So again, this is a light mocha, so it's in real life a little bit darker than it's showing, at least on my screen. Okay. So that's the last of my stitching whips. who knows what I'll end up working on tonight. Everyone like, oh, I would like to work on that. Like, oh, I would like to work on that. I want to work on all of them. I could do that. I know I haven't heard a little bit behind on FlossTube and stuff, but I know in the past there's been people that like had 12 starts or worked on 12 different things up until midnight. I'm not going to do anything like that, but I could certainly work on multiple things tonight if I wanted to, obviously. Okay, so let's see. I did do some stash enhancement. So I was actually usually at the Jingle Ball, I go a little crazy, but I did not this year because we had just bought a new vehicle, so I had to behave myself. So that was probably a good thing. But what I did get, and I'm not sure when I will start this, but I did get the Christmas Folk. Actually, let me take this out of here. By Hands on Design. I have the spring, is it the Spring Folk? I think the one I have is the Spring Folk. I'm going to get the rest of them. I'd like to stitch them all this year. I know there's been stitch-alongs. I should say I would like to stitch them all in 2025. So I decided to go ahead and get this since it was exclusive to the Jingle Ball at least for some time. I believe it will come out sometime later in 2025, I think is what Kathy said, but I don't know when. So very pretty. It calls for DMC and a 32 count linen. So I will probably stitch it with the called for colors. I don't know that I'll stitch it on 32 count. I will probably stitch it on 36 or 40. And instead of finishing on the paddle board like Kathy did, I've been thinking about actually finishing it as a, oh shoot, forget what it's called, bell pull. People don't seem to do those kind of finishes anymore, but I do have hardware for that kind of finish. And so I was thinking I could either do that or I could do a padded mat board with a wire, make it more like a door knocker. So one of those two things. That's how I'm going to finish these. Let's see, what else did I buy? So I can't remember if I showed this in my last FlossTube or not. I don't think so. So this is Katerine's Garden. It is exclusive to Hobby House. It's Hands Across the Sea. I just got the chart because although it is beautiful, I do not know when I would stitch this. So I decided to not get the full kit, but just get the chart, and then at some point I will kit this up perhaps out of my own stash. I may or may not do my own overdyed conversion. I do like to do those. Okay, so those are a couple purchases. Then in preparation for our sampler years group on Facebook, they are doing the Tom's Foolery. Let's see, get the Hands Across the Sea here. Tom's Foolery is the stitch along this year. And let's see if I can get a nice, there we go. There we go. So that is what it looks like. Very colorful. I am planning to just use the DMC rather than doing my own overdyed conversion, which I often do for these. But this one, I think I'm just going to go with the DMC. I haven't pulled the threads yet, so I'll probably just pull the ones I need to get started, and kind of go from there. Um, so I did get some linen from 123 Stitch, and this is antique white. I got 40 count. So I'll be using that one thread over two, one floss thread over two linen threads. Tom's Foolery is not very large. Let's see, what is it? Forget what the size is. "217 stitches by 153 stitches. So not terribly large. So my goal for this for 2025 is to actually keep up with the stitch along. I have yet to finish one in the year of the stitch along, because the first one I started very late, and then I wanted to finish that one before I started the next one. So the only ones I've actually finished are the blessing samplers. So along with that came the 2025 book of days. So I am all ready to start recording what I work on each day. I think that's all my purchases. Okay, so plans for, I've already talked a little bit about some plans. Oh, I forgot a few things. I did make some other purchases at the Jingle Ball, but not direct stitching related things. So Stacy Nash's daughter sells these things on Stacy Nash's website. They talked about them during the Jingle Ball, so I went and bought. This is a candle, and this gingerbread house is the scent. So it does smell like sugar cookies and gingerbread. And then I also got the gingerbread house lotion bar. So this lotion bar is made with coconut oil, shea butter, beeswax, vitamin E oil, essential oil, and fragrance oils. And it's not overpowering. It's very nice. And so it's nice. Oops. Bar lotion. Just rub it in your hands. It's not real greasy. So far, I'm liking it. So I can recommend that. Okay, and then in the countdown, some other items we got were this needle minder and this ornament, wooden ornament. And then this isn't a purchase, but more a stitchy kindness. And this one, I'm a member of the Tudor Rose Sampler Guild, and I'm actually a member of the board, and one of our other board members sent me this cute little ornament that I think she decoupaged it. But really beautiful. I love flowers. Poinsettias are a favorite flower this time of year. So that's one side, this is the other side. So both of these are actually on the same tree that I put my stitched ornaments on. So I pulled them off to show them tonight. I'll put those back on when I'm done here. Okay, so that's all my purchases for real now. Got to get back in the swing of this. So some plans. So I already mentioned I am planning to stitch along the Tom's Foolery. I do want to finish the Pigeon Coop. So that's actually from another stitch along. I think it's called, the idea is to stitch one of Max Pigeon's birds. And I'm trying to remember, the hashtag I think is Flew the Coop. I'll try to put it in info below when I actually get this posted. Let's see what else. Tomorrow, or that is on New Year's Day, I do plan to start a blessing sampler. I cannot show you a picture of it because it is the blessing sampler chart, the one that I'm planning to do, is not the same one that is the plan for the our sampler years, which is I sometimes do the same one, sometimes I do a different one. But this is Louise Vilvorder by Nicola Parkman of Hands Across the Sea. And it's a red sampler. And I am trying to decide, I have several different reds from Vicki Clayton, hand-dyed fibers. And I'm thinking I might use this one, which is called Scarlet Fever, which is the one that I'm pretty sure I used for my blessing sampler last year. But this is another red that's really cute. This one's called Quaint the Cache, C-A-C-H-E. And I have, I think, a couple other reds to choose from. So I'm trying to decide. And then I also haven't firmed up my fabric decision. I've got a couple from my stash that I am planning to use. So it'll be on a 36 or a 40 count. So I'll use one strand of the silk. I will likely use one of those two or one of the Vicki Clayton silks, red silks that I have. Although I've been toying with the idea of using an overdyed red. I'm just not sure I have enough of any of the ones that I was thinking of. So, like one of the ones I'm thinking of is Ribbon Red from Classic Colorworks. And I should have multiple skeins, but I don't know where they are. So they're in different projects. Yeah, so it's this blessing sampler is from the calendar, the Hands Across the Sea calendar. So it was a chart for a blessing sampler. So I'm using that one. I will personalize it, and I need to go back and watch the Nicola's recent FlossTube where she talks about this one. I think she said this one was French, or if it's French, if I'm right, remembering that it is French, then I may personalize it with a name from my my spouse's ancestors, because his family, the ones that came to North America first, came through Canada, and they were from France. Actually, it's been almost 300 years since they came over. So I may try to find, I know one of his cousins, I've met her a couple of times up in Canada. She's into the family history, and she might be able to give me a good name to use on that one. Let's see. So that's pretty much it for stitching. So I'll start the blessing sampler tomorrow. I may or may not start Tom's Foolery tomorrow. I may wait and start that at the weekend, and instead work on one of my Christmas ornaments or Christmas pieces, and then try to get at least one, if not two more of those done during the Christmas season. I do have a little bit of knitting to show you and to talk about. So I am still working on these socks. I was actually hoping to be done with these. I may work on these tonight and just finish them. I'm on the toe. I like to stitch my socks two at a time. These are called Rose City Rollers, and I am using my favorite yarn for socks. One of my two favorite yarn for socks. This is Hazel Knits Artisan Sock. And oh, I can't remember the name of this color. They don't have it in here. So we've got this red color, and then these are old club colors, I think. She doesn't do clubs anymore. And she rarely does multicolors like this. So these are, I think this is called Jubilee, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, it's from a while ago. And I started these a while ago. So they need to get finished. But as you can see, I'm closing in on the toes there. So I just need to do a few more decreases and then Kitchener stitch the toes closed. So maybe that's what I should work on tonight. So I did also want to mention, so I did get a comment actually on somebody else's FlossTube. Caroline from Evertote mentioned that she liked the shawl I was wearing in my last FlossTube. And so I thought, you know, I probably should have mentioned what it was, who the designer was, and then I'm wearing a shawl tonight too. And so I will talk about this one too. But first, the one from my last FlossTube was Ume by Andrea Rangel. I believe I'm saying her name correctly. And actually, that was a test knit that I did for Andrea way back in like 2014. So around that time and earlier, I was doing some test knitting for folks, mainly for folks in the Pacific Northwest, because I knew some of the designers through Hazel Knits. I was in the Hazel Knits Club, and Andrea and the designer for this shawl, Melissa Goodall, Goodale, they both used Hazel Knits a lot. And so the pattern that Andrea was writing at the time was with Hazel Knits Artisan Sock, but a different color. Hers was done in a pink. And so it's UME. I will put it down below in the description. It is still available on Ravelry, and Andrea is still designing because she just had something that came out this month. But the yellow shawl I was wearing in my last FlossTube, I also knitted with Hazel Knits Artisan Sock, but the colorway was Good Morning, which was also, I believe it was a club color. So I'm not sure if that's available, but she has other yellows that are available. And then this one here actually is by Stick Chick Knits, Melissa Goodale. And this actually is another Hazel Knits yarn called Divine. It is the merino cashmere silk blend, if I recall correctly. I do like shawls made of this one. And this was a colorway that was done for the Tinsmith's wife in Comfort, Texas, for one of their anniversaries. So Melissa had designed this shawl, and I actually tech edited it, the pattern. I was tech editing for Melissa at the time. It's called Deception Pass. Melissa liked to name things after places in California and the Pacific Northwest. And the colorway was called Sangiovese. Really beautiful, like burgundy color. It's actually quite a bit darker than it's showing on my screen. But anyway, this is also still available on Ravelry. This is actually a bit bigger. And if you look at my notes on Ravelry for my project for this one, it mentions how I enlarged it. I have pretty broad shoulders, so I do tend to, especially these asymmetric type shawls. Let me just take this off. And for these asymmetric type shawls like this one, I do tend to make them larger. So, but unfortunately, Melissa doesn't seem to be designing anymore. I haven't been in touch with her in a while, so um, but she still has some beautiful things on Ravelry on it. Looks like everything's still for sale, so including this one, Deception Pass. Okay, so that's it for stitching and knitting. In my last FlossTube, I promised I would have a science corner. So my name on social media is Science Knitster. I first used that actually on Ravelry when Ravelry started. I'm not sure they're still doing it this way, but you had to have a name. And most people didn't use their name. So at the time, so I wanted like biology or science in the word. And at the time, there was somebody who had a knitting show on TV on PBS. I don't even remember. Vicky, I forget her last name. But she talked about knitsters instead of knitters. And I enjoyed her show a lot, so I came up with the name Science Knitster and have used that on social media since then. Anyway, so I'm a scientist, a biologist by training, and I teach biology at the local community college. So I do like to talk about some science once in a while. And so today's Science Corner is like what I like to talk about when I talk about science at the end of my videos, called the Science Corner, is about the Audubon Christmas bird count. So this time of year, from December 14th through January, I believe it's the 4th or 5th, the Audubon Society sponsors bird counts, and they call it the Christmas bird count. It actually came out of, let's see, in the early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s, among the sort of gentry class, I guess you'd call them. We didn't really have this in the United States, but I guess that's what you'd call them, like in the UK, back in those days. Christmas Day, they would, or around that time, they'd go out shooting like pheasant and whatnot. And so, and I meant to, I had looked it up and I forgot to write down the guy's name, but somebody started this, let's go out and look at birds and count them instead of shooting them. And that's how the Christmas bird count got started. I believe it was around 1900. Again, I looked this all up the other day and didn't write any of it down, so I don't remember the exact dates and so forth. But you can find that kind of information on the internet. But I will put a link to information from Audubon about the Christmas bird counts, but you can find out information. It's almost over for this year, and by the time some of you may see this, it might be too late. But if you are interested in birding or conservation and want to do something local, it might be something to look out for next year, because there are counts all over the country. In fact, in our area, there are just around our town, there are 3 or 4, right? Like 2 definitely in town, and then a couple others around. And then if you're willing to go a little bit farther, even more. So my spouse usually participates in 4 or 5 or 6, depending on dates. This year, a couple of the ones he likes to participate in were on the same date, so he had to choose one. And what was that? 8? He normally participates in 8 different ones. So there's one that includes our neighborhood that I actually help him with part of the day. And we do some of the birding in our backyard and our front yard. And I'm trying to think, what else did I want to say about that? So yeah, so if that's something that you're interested in, it is something you can participate in locally. There's likely a Christmas bird count either in your town or not too far away. Um, some of the interesting information that has come out of these Christmas bird counts, because they've been doing them for over 100 years now. And so except this basically this big database of information about what birds are being seen. Now, obviously, it's very weather dependent and dependent on how many people you actually have able to go out and do the counts. But there's been some interesting information they've gleaned from these Christmas bird counts, such as the fact that birds like the cardinal tend to stay farther north now, and likely due to people putting out winter bird feeders. So all you folks up north that put out bird feeders, thank you. So it gives the cardinals something to eat. They're seed eaters, so it gives them something to eat in the winter time. So the Audubon Society sponsors those, but you do not need to belong to the Audubon Society in order to join in. And many of them will take new birders. So if it's something you'd want to, learn about birds, you can look for local Audubon or local other bird related clubs in your area to go out and learn about the birds in your area, and then be able to participate in a local Christmas bird count. There are other things at other times of the year that you can also participate in, like the Cornell Lab of Ornithology has the great backyard bird count or something. They have like a weekend where you can participate by counting the birds or paying attention to the birds in your backyard. When we get closer to that, I'll try to remember to do a science corner about that. But I will, like I said, I'll put a link in the description when I get a chance to the Audubon Society's information about these bird counts, and then if it's something you might want to look into for next year, you'll be able to do that. Excuse me. There was one other thing I was going to say about the bird counts, and now I don't remember what it was. Oh, not so much bird counts, but I've recently discovered several different live bird cams. Now, several of them are on the Cornell Lab of Ornithology's YouTube channel. So I'll put a link to that. But once you start watching some of those, a bunch of them pop up in your feed. So now I'm getting them because, we watched a couple of them, and now we seem to be getting, or at least on my YouTube, I'm getting other channels where they have live feeder cams from different places. Some of them, and then for the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, some of them are feeder cams, and some of them are like watching nests or roosting places for birds that are of interest to people, like osprey and owls and things like that. Oh, speaking of owls, actually, we had, what was a great horned? We had a great horned owl in our yard. Was it last weekend? 2 weekends ago. 2 weeks ago. It actually flew in the daytime, and then a couple of nights later, we heard it calling. We haven't heard it since, so we don't know if it went somewhere else or it's just being real quiet right now. We haven't seen it since then, but it was pretty cool because we actually were able to look at it through a scope that my spouse had borrowed to do the bird counts. And so it was like it filled the viewer. It was because it wasn't that far away. So you could also see it pretty good with, you know, just binoculars. But anyway, that was pretty exciting. So today's science corner was all about birds. I do tend to talk about birds a lot because we do go birding quite a bit. Um, but my next one, I do plan to talk about something else because I'm actually a geneticist by training. So I'm gonna talk about some genetics next time. The next time I do a science corner. So my next floss tube will likely be this weekend. Will probably be an extra whip parade, my 2024 whip parade. Um, I just wasn't ready to do one tonight, and I figured I had enough, um, you know, just showing my starts and my whips and whatnot, and a little bit of knitting and science corner. So I'm gonna call it a night. We have a few things to do to get ready um, for later tonight, um, for New Year's, for our own little New Year's countdown, and hopefully I will see you back in a few days. Happy New Year!